In the year 70 AD, Roman legions sacked and burned Jerusalem. Israel would remain a nation in exile for nearly 2,000 years. But in the aftermath of World War II, the people of the book returned home. Israel's rebirth and survival in the 20th century has often been called a miracle. Those who were there cite their own experiences as proof. I'm Michael Greenspan. I'm an investigative journalist. These are their stories.
My network has given me a simple assignment. Go to Israel, investigate stories of supposed miracles that have occurred there, talk to the people who claim they've seen one or been part of one, and find out if there's any truth to it all. If one is to believe the biblical accounts of Israel, this is a place of miracles. There's no other culture, no other people whose history, whose faith is more linked to the miraculous than Judaism. I learned so many of these stories as a boy. Parting of the Red Sea, manna falling from the sky to feed the children of Israel, water springing from a rock in the desert, the walls of Jericho falling at the sound of worship, the sun standing still so Joshua could finish a battle, David killing the giant Goliath. If such stories are more than fables, then it would not be inconceivable that they still happen. But do they? The stories I'm investigating today sound like pages from the Bible, but if you believe the people I'm meeting, they happened, not thousands of years ago, but in 20th century Israel. Typical is a story told to me the other day up on the Mount of Olives by military historian Gershon Bar Kokhba, who told me an incredible tale from the War of Independence.
Over here, on our right, the Zion Mount. The Jewish state was established on Friday. Monday night, there were 1,800 Jews under siege in the Jewish quarter. And the Palmach decide we have to get inside. And on Monday night, they conquer the Zion Mount. In the morning, 5 soldiers of us were in front of the Zion Mountain, and thousands of Arabs started a counterattack of the Zion Mountain.
חבר'ה, יש לנו אורחים! יש לי רק 5 כדורים! אצלי 6! לי יש רק 4! טוב חבר'ה, היה כיף להכיר אתכם. אולי אין לנו שום סיכוי, אבל אנחנו יכולים להילחם כמו גדולים. לפחות כמה דקות. אל תדאגו, זה ייגמר מהר.
This guy named Shimon Mordechai Rapoport says that they shot the last bullet. And they were sure that's the end. They don't want to be slaughtered. And the Arabs that felt that there are no more shooting, they started yelling, Itbach El Yahud, kill the Jews, and started running towards this emplacement. And suddenly they heard the Arabs yelling, Ibrahim, Ibrahim, Ibrahim! Abraham, and Abraham. And running away. They have no idea what happened.
הם בורחים! זה לא יאומן! זה לא יאומן.
Shimon Mordechai Rappaport takes his cousin, Ira Rappaport, to the Mount of Zion and telling him his story 19 years beforehand. And there was an Arab over there that was sitting and hearing this story. This Arab comes over to him and tells him, just 1 second, you fought over here 19 years beforehand? He said, yes. I don't believe it. I was one of the Arabs that attacked. Oh, you try to kill me, I try to kill you. Shaking your head. Just 1 second. I have to understand. Why did you run away? We didn't have any ammunition. The Arab told him, I don't believe. What, you didn't see what was over there? What are you talking about? The Arab told him there was this huge guy over your emplacement that was going us with his hand. Oh, we were sure that's Abraham, your patriarchs, your father. We got so scared, we ran away. Unbelievable. Even the people that fought in that fight don't believe. It doesn't make sense. Something else happened over here.
I had another conversation up on the Mount of Olives, this one with one of the pioneers of Israeli television. Adir Zik was a controversial figure in the ongoing struggle between the Zionists who see this land as a divine inheritance with borders set by God over 2,000 years ago, and those modernists, they would call themselves realists, who see room for both a Palestinian and a Jewish state to function side by side on this land. Adir would lose a long battle with cancer barely a month after we talked today.
Have you personally, or people in your family personally, felt the power of the intervention of God in a way that you would call miraculous?
There is a fantastic story that happened to one of my sons. He was in the Golani Battalion, which is a very famous fighting unit in the Israeli army. He was stationed in one of our fortresses in Lebanon, and when the Israeli army pulled out of Lebanon, they were supposed to stay there.
כן, כן המפקד. כן. המפקד רוצה אותך, נתן.
קוד, כאן משנה רות אבו. כאן משנה, שלילי, אין לנו עוד פה יותר מ-15 קטנות. רות, תיישר, דרכי אליהם. טוב, תקשיבו מה שקורה כזה דבר. אנחנו מוצאים את העמדה הזאת, יש? אנחנו משאירים פה כל דבר חוץ מנשק ופקלים. יש לנו 6 קילומטר של גיהנום עד הבסיס. תסתכלו סביב, כנראה שאם אנחנו לא רוצים שהערבים יתגנו אותנו, אנחנו צריכים לעשות את זה ולעשות את זה מהר. דוקטור, מה איתך?
אני אהיה בסדר, אל תדאג. אני אסתדר, אני אעמוד בקצב.
על הכיפאק, יאללה חבר'ה, קדימה, על הרגליים, אחריי!
היא משלנו, המפקד!
אתה בטוח?
כן, אני מזהה את זיק בראש התור.
תפתחו את השער, תכניסו אותה, תביאו מים! קדימה, קדימה, קדימה!
הלאה, יופי, יופי.
טוב. כל הכבוד לכם.
יופי, יופי, חבר'ה, איפה זיק? זיק! No one was hurt, nobody sprayed an ankle, nobody didn't even get a sharpener or anything like this. And he said to me, it was as if God took me in my hair, took me a long hell for about an hour and got me out back to paradise, back to life. This is something that doesn't make sense unless you look at it as a miracle.
Do you think miracles are still happening here today?
There's no doubt in my mind that miracles are happening personally, nationally, to everyone, every day. You need to open your eyes, and especially to open your heart. And the fact that we are succeeding, and the fact that we are alive, and we are reviving a nation in this very place is a miracle, a day-to-day miracle.
This is Galilee. This is some of the most beautiful land in Israel. For Christians, it's where Jesus grew up, turned water into wine at a wedding, fed the 5,000, walked on water. But the two stories I'm investigating up here today, if true, are not Bible stories. They're stories of incredible events that took place in the 20th century. Even though Israel was only reborn in 1948, there have always been Jews living here since the time of the Bible. There's one family here in the town of Pekin that has been here since the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD. Margalit Zanati is in her 70s now, and she's the last of her family. Margalit agreed to meet me out at the Jewish cemetery. Hi, Margalit. Margalit, what can you tell me about this town, especially about the Jews who live here?
This village has been Jewish since from the destruction of the Second Temple. After the destruction of the temple, Jews came here from all the area. We were one of the families that came to this area of the graves of holy men.
On the way up here, we saw signs pointing to the graves of famous rabbis, what they call tzaddikim. These tzaddikim, these holy men, I understand that they also helped save the Jews of Pekin back in 1928. Maybe you can tell me about that.
It was late one night. Everyone in the village was sleeping, except for our rabbi. What he did not know was that some Arabs from a nearby village had decided to come that night while we were sleeping and kill the men, take the women, burn our houses, and take everything we had. This we found out much later. The terrorists approached our village from the thick forest on the east, so we would not see them till they were right on us. But as they stepped into the clearing, they suddenly saw several tall, robed figures. The Arabs figured we had put guards down there, so they decided to get to the village another way. They circled around and came up over the rocky hillside on the south side. But as they climbed up, the attackers saw more of these huge beings. Still, the terrorists were not ready to give up. So they circled around the village to try and get to it the only other way they could, from the north side, across the Jewish cemetery. From that side, they could be seen long before they reached the village, but there was no other way to get to it. As the terrorists started running towards the village, a column of these robed men suddenly appeared. They lifted enormous swords into the air. Fire appeared along the blade of each sword, lighting up everything. The Arabs were so frightened. They threw down their weapons and ran off into the forest. Rabbi Yoshua was as surprised as the Arabs of what had happened. The Arabs never came back to harm the Jews of Pekin.
When you tell me the story, it sounds like what we call in English a fairy tale sometimes. You know, the kind of story you don't know whether to believe or not to believe. Do you believe it?
It is not a legend. It is true. My grandfather told my father, and he told me. It is a miracle from heaven.
Avinoam Greenberg's grandfather bought land here while he was still in Romania over 100 years ago. He and his family came here nearly a century ago as pioneers. Out of a barren land neglected for centuries, they built a good life for themselves.
1915, מה קורה?
In Yavne, 1915 is considered the year when the miracle occurred. The tiny village of Yavne is in the heart of Galilee, a beautiful place of forests, farms and orchards tucked into the rolling hills along the Sea of Tiberias. My family had farmed those fields for over 100 years. But in 1915, something terrible occurred. A swarm of deadly locusts like nothing anyone had ever seen before suddenly appeared, blocking the sun and swarming down on the lush green fields of Yavne. There were so many they blocked the sun and it became like night in the middle of the day. There was nothing we could do about it. My father and the other families of the village hurried to the fields with anything they could find to try and scare the locusts away. School was dismissed so the children could help. They brought large lids from trash cans to bang together and make a noise. Others brought brooms and sticks from home to try and get the locusts to leave the fields of Yavne, but it didn't help. All day long the locusts ate the fruit of the fields. Then the leaves, then the plants, then the stems. Our beautiful fields would be completely destroyed if the locusts didn't leave. It was like one of the plagues in the Bible. As nightfall came, everyone went back to their homes. There was nothing more that could be done until the morning, and the villagers would try again to fight the dreaded locusts. During the night, many in the village prayed for a miracle from God to save Yavne from the locusts. The next morning, one of the villagers looked out of his window towards the fields and saw a strange sight. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. The fields were covered in a white blanket that looked like snow. The farmer ran outside and sounded the alarm. Everyone ran to the fields with the farmer to see what was happening. The fields were covered in white stalks. There were thousands of them eating the locusts. These wonderful birds would save the village. There were so many stalks that if one of them flew up from the fields, there was no place for it to land again. For 3 days, the stalks ate the locusts until there were none left. And then they disappeared as quickly as they had arrived. The fields were now richer, producing better crops than ever before. For the next 3 years, those fields produced the most crops and the best fruit of any other fields in Galilee. This was not the time when stalks come to Galilee, and there had never been so many. But they were here, and they saved the village. It was a real miracle. Since then we call it the miracle of the stalks. Nobody could answer why a miracle occurs, but it does. I believe this was one of the miracles which saved this colony from complete destruction.
Rabbi Israel Lau is one of the most inspiring people you'll ever meet. He's the former chief rabbi of Israel, one of the highest honors this country can bestow. Rabbi, is what I see here just the result of amazing human courage, foresight, and wisdom? Or is it the work of God? Is it a miracle?
Miracle starts with the very existence and survival of the Jewish people so long, and in spite of all the battles, all the sufferings, including Holocaust. I think it's a combination of both. If they wouldn't be dreamers, they wouldn't be fighters.
Maybe that explains how the Jewish people survived throughout all the thousands of years, but how about the modern state of Israel? Is that also just a matter of deciding that we want to preserve these ideals and beliefs, or is it just courage? Maybe it's just going into battle knowing how to fight better than the enemy knows. That's not a miracle.
In the city of Tzfat, 1948, they were surrounded with very many Arab soldiers from Syria and Iraq. Very old people were sitting there and praying all the time for their survival. Then the Palmach underground movement, before the IDF came and liberated Tzfat. They asked the old Jews there, did you believe that you will survive independence war? They said, of course. We never lost hope. We based our hope on two things, naturally and miraculously. Naturally, we prayed. We said the chapters of the Psalms of King David. And we know naturally that if you pray, if you believe, you survive. The miracle was that you came on time to liberate us. If not miracles, this land wouldn't be in Jewish hands today. The Jewish state wouldn't be declared and wouldn't survive so far.
As a rabbi and a teacher, where do you suggest I begin looking for my Jewish self?
From the very first meeting with the worker in the airport already. And you will see that Moshiko, who is carrying the suitcases, came from Tbilisi. And you from the United States, Michael, you have a lot in common. The Yom Kippur, the shofar of Rosh Hashanah, the matzah in the night of Passover, the circumcision, the wedding ceremony, the Kaddish. When you go out from the airport, you come to cities like Jaffa, 20 minutes from the airport. Jaffa, remembering this story of Jonas, the prophet, who escaped from the Sea of Jaffa. He was David, fighting with Goliath, 15 minutes from the airport. Here was King Saul in Hara Gilboa against the Plishtim, the Palestinian of that time. And he was Samson, 10 minutes from the airport. King David, King Solomon, Abraham in Beit El, in Ophrah, Isaac in Beersheba, Jacob in Kiryat Arba. The Bible becomes alive in your eyes. You touch it. You have it in your arms. All your Jewish world is in your arms, Michael. Just open the eyes and the ears and a little bit your heart. You have it.
Visions of Abraham in the sky, angels with flaming swords defending a village by night, thousands of storks saving a village from a plague of locusts, a company of soldiers passing right in front of enemy gunfire and not one being shot. They sound like fairy tales to tell children, myths that grow with age. Yet those who told me these stories say that they are true, and the facts that surround them can be verified. Perhaps just as convincing that they could be true is the fact that these people's lives were dramatically changed by what they experienced, whatever it was. But were they miracles? I don't know. Gershon Bar Kokhba perhaps said it best when he said that when God works miracles, sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't. The important thing is to keep looking.